I'm a forest ranger in Olympic National Park. I follow 9 rules to survive the night shift. My name is Sarah Chen. I've been a backcountry ranger at Olympic National Park in Washington for 3 years. The day shift is normal. Tourists, trail maintenance, wildlife management. Standard stuff. But the night shift is different. They gave me the rules on my first overnight patrol. A weathered notebook with a green cover, wrapped in plastic and duct tape. My supervisor, Martin, handed it to me without looking at my face. "Read it before sunset," he said. "Follow every rule exactly. Don't improvise." "What happens if I don't?" I asked. He finally looked at me. His eyes were tired, hollow. "I don't know," he said. "Everyone who didn't follow them never made it to morning to tell us. That was 3 years ago. I've followed the rules every single night since, until last Tuesday." The notebook is titled, Olympic National Park, Night Patrol Protocols for Backcountry Rangers, Restricted. There are 9 rules. They don't make sense. They've never made sense. But they work. Rule 1, the boundary check sunset trigger. When the sun touches the horizon, action. Walk the perimeter of Ranger Station 7 exactly 3 times clockwise. Place a river stone at each of the 4 cardinal directions, north, south, east, west. The stones must be from the stream behind the station. No other stones will work. My notes: the stones have to be smooth and palm-sized. I tried using larger stones once. At 11:47 p.m., all 4 stones cracked simultaneously with sounds like gunshots. I spent the rest of the night in the station with every light on. I began my patrol at 6:47 p.m. The sun was already sinking behind the ridge, painting the Douglas firs in orange and gold. I walked the perimeter, once, twice, 3 times. I placed the stones carefully. North, south, east, west. The forest was quiet, too quiet. No birds, no wind, just silence pressing against my ears like water. Rule 2, the radio schedule. Every hour, on the hour trigger. Every hour from 7 p.m. to 6 a.m. Action. Radio check-in with dispatch using the exact phrase. Station 7, code green, no anomalies. Even if there are anomalies, never report them over the radio. My notes: I broke this rule once in my first month. I reported hearing footsteps circling the station. Dispatch didn't respond. At 3 a.m., I heard my own voice on the radio, repeating my report word for word. It wasn't a recording. The voice answered when I spoke to it. 7 p.m. check-in, Station 7, code green, no anomalies. Dispatch responded, "Copy, Station 7. Stay safe out there." I locked the station door and made coffee. The notebook sat on the desk, green cover reflecting the fluorescent lights. Outside, the darkness was absolute. Rule 3, the eastern window 8 p.m., 9 p.m. trigger. Between 8 p.m. and 9 p.m. exactly, action. Do not look out the eastern window of the station. If you hear tapping on the glass, ignore it. If you hear your name, ignore it. If you hear someone you love calling for help, ignore it. Close the curtain and face away until 9:01 p.m. My notes: this is the hardest rule. Last winter, I heard my sister's voice outside that window. She was crying, begging me to let her in, saying she was lost and cold. My sister lives in Portland. She's never been to this station. I kept the curtain closed. At 9:01, the crying stopped. I found handprints on the outside of the glass, small, child-sized, with too many fingers. At 8:17 p.m., the tapping started, soft at first. Fingernails on glass, then harder. Knuckles, palm strikes. I sat at the desk, facing west, hands clenched around my coffee mug. "Sarah," my mother's voice. "Sarah, please, I'm hurt. I need help. My mother died 4 years ago, lung cancer. I was with her at the end. Sarah, why won't you help me? I'm bleeding. Please. I closed my eyes, counted my breaths. The tapping became pounding. The glass rattled in its frame. At 9:01 p.m. it stopped. Silence. I waited 5 more minutes before I opened my eyes. Rule 4. The trail camera check. 10 p.m. trigger. 10 p.m. exactly. Action. Review footage from the motion-activated trail camera positioned 200 yards north of the station. If you see anything on 2 legs that isn't human, delete the footage immediately and do not go outside for the rest of the night. My notes: I've seen things. Shapes that move wrong. Figures that are too tall or too thin. Once I saw something that looked like a park ranger in uniform, but its face was smooth. No features, just skin. I deleted it in 3 seconds and didn't sleep that night. I pulled up the camera feed on my laptop. 7:34 p.m. Deer crossing the trail. 8:12 p.m. Raccoon near the creek. 8:56 p.m. Nothing. Just empty trail. 9:47 p.m. I stopped. A figure stood in the center of the frame. Perfectly still. It was tall, maybe 7 feet, humanoid shape. But the proportions were wrong. Arms too long, head too small. It wore clothes, jeans and a jacket. It was facing away from the camera. Then slowly it turned. Its face. I deleted the file before I could process what I saw. My hands were shaking. I was locked in for the night. Rule 5. The supply closet. 11 p.m. Midnight trigger. Between 11 p.m. and midnight. Action. Do not open the supply closet in the back of the station. You will hear sounds inside. Scratching, whispers, footsteps. Ignore them. At 12:01 a.m., the sounds will stop. The closet will be safe again until the next night. My notes: I asked Martin what's in the closet during the day. He said, supplies, medical kit, spare batteries, normal stuff. I asked what's in there at night. He said, I don't know. And you don't want to know either. At 11:34 p.m., the scratching started, soft, deliberate, like fingernails dragging across wood from the inside. Then whispers, multiple voices overlapping. I couldn't make out words, but the tone was pleading, desperate. At 11:49 p.m., I heard my name. Sarah. We know you're out there. Open the door. It was Martin's voice. We need help. We're trapped. Please. I turned up the radio to drown it out. At 12:01 a.m., the sound stopped. I exhaled. Rule 6. The midnight walk. 12:30 a.m. Trigger. Exactly 12:30 m. Action. You must step outside and walk exactly 50 paces north into the forest. Stop. Stand still for 2 minutes. Do not turn around no matter what you hear behind you. After 2 minutes, walk backward 50 paces to the station. Do not turn your back to the forest until you're inside. My notes. This rule terrifies me every time. You feel it behind you. Presence, breath, weight. Something watching. Something close. The 2 minutes feel like hours. I count seconds in my head. 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi. I never make it past 90 before I lose count and have to start over. At 12:30 a.m., I opened the door. The forest was silent. I clicked on my flashlight and started walking. I counted each step. 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. I stopped. I turned off my flashlight. I stood still. Behind me I heard breathing. Heavy. Wet. Like something with lungs full of fluid. Then footsteps. Slow. Deliberate. Circling me. I stared straight ahead into the darkness. 1 Mississippi. 2 Mississippi. Something touched my shoulder. Cold. Firm. 5 distinct points of pressure. A hand. I didn't move. 30 Mississippi. 40 Mississippi. The hand slid down my back. Slowly. Then it was gone. 120 Mississippi. I walked backward. 50 paces. I felt it following me, staying just behind me, just out of sight. When I reached the station, I stepped inside and slammed the door. Through the window, I saw nothing, but I heard it, breathing on the other side of the door. Rule 7, the journal entry 2 a.m. trigger. 2 a.m. exactly. Action, write an entry in the station logbook. You must write exactly 3 sentences. The forest is calm. Wildlife activity is normal. No incidents to report, even if this is not true. Sign your name. Close the book. My notes: last year, a ranger named David wrote the truth. He documented everything he'd seen that night. The next morning they found the logbook open to his entry. Every word had been scratched out violently, deep gouges in the paper. David was never found. His truck was still in the parking lot. His gear was still in the station. He just vanished. At 2 a.m., I opened the logbook. My hand was steady. I wrote, "The forest is calm. Wildlife activities normal. No incidents to report." I signed my name, Sarah Chen. I closed the book. The lights flickered. Rule 8, the final hours 3 a.m., 5 a.m. trigger. From 3 a.m. until 5 a.m. Action, stay inside. Keep all lights on. Do not respond to any sounds outside. You may hear voices of people you know. You may hear screams. You may hear someone banging on the door begging to be let in. Do not open the door. Do not look outside. Wait for sunrise. My notes: this is when it gets aggressive. The longest 2 hours of the night. I've heard everything. Children crying, hikers calling for help, Martin's voice ordering me to open the door. Once I heard a ranger I'd worked with years ago who died in a climbing accident. His voice was so real, I almost opened the door. Almost. At 3:47 a.m., someone knocked. "Sarah? It's Martin. Open up. We need to talk about your performance review." I didn't move. At 4:12 a.m., I heard screaming. A woman's voice, close, right outside the eastern window. "Help me, please. Something's chasing me." I kept my eyes on the notebook. At 4:38 a.m., I heard a child crying. "Mommy, are you in there? I'm scared. I can't find my way back." I turned up the radio. At 4:52 a.m., silence, complete, absolute. I watched the clock. 4:53, 4:54, 4:55. Rule 9, the sunrise protocol, 5 a.m., 6 a.m. trigger. When the first light appears in the eastern sky, action. Collect the 4 river stones from the cardinal directions. Return them to the stream. Walk the perimeter counterclockwise once. Enter the station. The night is over. My notes never skip this rule. Never. A ranger 2 years ago thought he could leave early once sunrise started. They found him 3 days later, 10 miles deep in the forest, sitting against a tree. He was staring straight ahead. He wouldn't speak, wouldn't eat, wouldn't acknowledge anyone. They airlifted him out. I heard he's in a psychiatric facility in Seattle now, still hasn't spoken. At 5:47 a.m., the first gray light touched the horizon. I stepped outside. The air was cold, clean, normal. I collected the stones. North, south, east, west. I walked to the stream and placed them back in the water. I walked the perimeter counterclockwise once. The forest was waking, birds singing, wind moving through the branches. I stepped back into the station. The night was over. I survived the mistake that should have been the end. But I made a mistake, a small one. At 6:15 a.m., as I was packing up my gear, I noticed something on the desk. The green notebook was open. I didn't remember leaving it open. There was a new page, one I'd never seen before. The handwriting wasn't mine. It read, Rule 10, the witness. You have survived 9 rules for 3 years. You have seen what walks in the darkness. You have heard what calls from the forest. You have felt what touches in the silence. But you were never supposed to survive this long. Those who follow the rules perfectly for more than 1,000 nights earn the right to leave. Those who make a single mistake become part of the forest. Count your nights, Sarah Chen. Last night was number 1087. You made your mistake at 9:47 p.m. You looked at its face. My blood went cold. The trail camera footage. The figure. I'd seen its face before I deleted the file. For just a fraction of a second. Just long enough. I checked the stream. The 4 stones I'd just returned were gone. I walked back to the station. On the door, carved deep into the wood, were words that hadn't been there 10 minutes ago. Welcome home. It's been 3 days. I haven't left the park. I can't. Every time I try to drive away, I end up back at Station 7. The road just loops. No matter which direction I go. Martin hasn't answered my radio calls. Dispatch says there's no Ranger Station 7 in Olympic National Park. They say there hasn't been a backcountry ranger named Sarah Chen in their system for 3 years. Last night, I heard footsteps on the roof. Tonight, I heard breathing inside the station. The sun is setting again. I have the notebook open in front of me. The rules are still here, but now there's a 10th rule, and I don't know how to follow it. Because it just says, Rule 10, you can't leave. You're the new station. If you're reading this, don't apply for backcountry positions in Olympic National Park. Don't work the night shift. And if they hand you a green notebook, wrapped in plastic and duct tape, run. Epilogue. The Park Service closed Ranger Station 7 in 2019 due to structural concerns. No one has been assigned there since, but hikers still report seeing lights in the windows at night, and sometimes, late at night, dispatch receives radio calls, Station 7, code green, no anomalies. The voice is always calm, always professional, always the same.